I work at a warehouse in an industrial district, the kind of place that's loud all day with trucks and forklifts, and at night settles into steady ventilation noise and the occasional headlights on the distant road. The uncomfortable part isn't the dark. It's how sound behaves when the building is empty. A small creak can travel farther than it should, bounce back, and make you hesitate for half a second before you decide what it was. This happened on a Thursday night, heading into Friday. I remember because we'd done inventory that day and finished later than usual. By 10:48 p.m. we were already shutting down the lights in the packing area. The guys had a habit of joking loudly right before clocking out, partly because it kept the mood up, partly because it kept your attention away from the little noises you notice when a big building is quiet. I did it too. I was laughing with them, but one thought kept looping in my head. I'd left my flash drive in the office. Not just any drive. A small black one with an encrypted key we used for a work program. I kept it in the top drawer of my desk in the shift supervisor's office because I'd pulled it out earlier to reconcile shipping logs. If it went missing, I'd be explaining myself to management, and it would be the kind of explanation that never feels good enough, even when you're right. I checked my pockets, my backpack, my glove compartment. Nothing. You lose your keys again? Tyler asked, grinning. Tyler drove the reach truck. He was already halfway into his pickup. Flash drive, I said. It's in the office. I have to grab it. Man, forget it. Get it tomorrow, he said. Security's gonna lock everything up. Security, yeah? But here's the thing. After 11 p.m. there's only one guard on duty at the gatehouse. He watches cameras and writes in the logbook. He doesn't walk the building, and he doesn't have keys to the office wing. I looked at the time. 10:56 p.m. If I turned around now, I could make it quick. 5 minutes there, 2 minutes inside, 5 minutes back. I'd already started my car when I noticed something else. My phone was at 9%. I'd forgotten to charge it. I turned around anyway. The warehouse looks different at night. Same buildings, same lot, but everything feels flatter, dark windows, yellow perimeter lights, and long shadows where the loading docks begin. When I pulled up, the gate arm was down, but the gatehouse was lit. At 11:04 p.m. I stopped at the window. The guard on duty was a man in his late 50s or early 60s. Everyone called him Frank. What did you forget? He asked in a calm voice, like he'd been expecting it. Flash drive. In the office. I'll be 2 minutes, I said, holding up my badge. He looked at me a little longer than usual, then nodded, hit a button, and the gate arm lifted. 10 minutes, he said. And don't go into the warehouse. Just the offices. I waited for him to explain why. He didn't. Yeah, I said. Just the offices. I parked near the admin entrance. It had a keypad and a card reader, and a camera above it with a tiny red LED. I swiped my badge. A short beep. The lock clicked. And in the same moment, the corridor lights inside came on. Not gradually, just on, like something had triggered the motion sensors deeper in the hallway. I stopped in the doorway. My brain didn't have a story yet, but my body wanted to step back. The lights weren't in the area right in front of me. They were farther down, closer to the door that led into the warehouse side. I stood there, listening. The hum of fluorescent lights. The distant ventilation. No voices. No footsteps. Motion sensor, I told myself. Draft, bug, glitch, those things happened. I stepped in and pulled the door closed behind me. The lock clicked again. I didn't turn on full lighting, just let the corridor lights do the work. I walked toward my office at the end of the hall. When I passed the break room, I caught a smell, fresh coffee. I stopped again because that didn't make sense. We'd all left. The coffee maker should have been off. No one should have been brewing anything at 11 at night. I took one step into the break room. It was dark, but the corridor light spilled through the frosted window and gave the room shape. A mug sat on the table. It wasn't mine. I recognized it immediately, white with a blue logo from one of our clients. We had two like that. One of them was usually in Frank's gatehouse. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it, trying to place how it could be here. Somewhere farther away, on the warehouse side, metal clicked. Not a bang. Not a slam. Just a hard little sound like something shifted. I backed out of the break room and walked faster. Not running yet. Running in an empty building makes you feel ridiculous, and it makes every sound louder. My office door was at the end. I unlocked it, stepped inside, and switched on my desk lamp. My notebook was open on the desk. I didn't remember leaving it open. The page showed inventory numbers. And on the bottom margin, someone had written one word in pen. Big letters. Messy, like it was done quickly. Go back. Cold ran up my spine, not the kind that makes you scream, the kind that makes your thoughts narrow. Tyler, I thought. Or one of the guys messing with me. But how? We'd been outside together. I remembered Tyler starting his engine. I remembered someone slamming a trunk. I opened the top drawer. The flash drive was there. I grabbed it and closed my fist around it. The only thing I wanted now was to leave. No extra checks. No. Let me look around. I turned off the lamp and stepped back into the corridor. The hallway lights were still on farther down, toward the warehouse door. And now I heard something I hadn't heard before. A slow rolling sound, like small wheels moving carefully. A pallet jack. The door into the warehouse was supposed to be closed and locked. But sound carries. The warehouse is huge, and everything echoes. I kept moving toward the exit. Not toward the warehouse. I was close enough to see the glass doors at the admin entrance when the overhead PA system crackled. That system almost never came on at night. Supervisors used it during the day to call someone to a dock or warn about forklifts. First there was static. A short burst. Then a voice. My voice. Don't go out. It was broken up, like a low-quality recording. But it was my voice. The same flat tone I hear in voicemail. My heart kicked so hard I felt it in my throat. Static again. Silence. I stood in the corridor trying to make my brain do something useful. There weren't any automated announcements. The PA only came on from the dispatch panel, a little room near the warehouse door that required a code. Only supervisors and maintenance knew that code. My phone vibrated. A security text. The building system sometimes sent alerts when doors were accessed. The message was short. Access. Badge number 0413. Door warehouse S2. 11:11 p.m. Entry granted. I looked at the time, 11:12 p.m. My badge was in my pocket. I hadn't gone near the warehouse door. I hadn't swiped anything except the admin entrance. I pulled the badge out and stared at it like the number might change. Same badge. Same scuff on the edge. Far ahead, past the warehouse door, the rolling sound came again, slow and deliberate. I went straight to the admin exit. I grabbed the handle. It didn't open. I yanked again. Nothing. Then I remembered, after 11 p.m., the doors sometimes went into badge required to exit mode for logging purposes. I swiped my badge at the reader. Beep. Red light. Access denied? That hit harder than the PA. Access denied meant either my badge had been disabled, or the system thought my badge was being used somewhere else and flagged it. I pressed my back to the wall, forcing myself to breathe slow. Swiped again. Beep. Red. Again. Beep. Red. Behind me, the corridor lights were fully on now. Yellow light, flat and harsh. I thought about Frank at the gatehouse. He was outside. He could unlock the doors or at least explain why my badge was suddenly useless. I called him. It rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. On the 3rd ring, someone picked up. No voice. Just quiet. Then a faint sound, like a hand brushing a microphone. And then my voice again, close to the speaker. Tell him not to come in. I pulled the phone away from my ear like it burned. The screen still showed the call connected. I ended it with shaking fingers. At the exact moment I did, the PA system crackled again. You always come back. My voice. Clearer this time. Something about hearing your own voice in the wrong place changes how your body reacts. It doesn't feel like a prank. It feels like a boundary got crossed. Who's there? I shouted into the corridor. My words hit the walls and came back at me. No answer. But at the far end of the hall, near the warehouse door, a thin rectangle of light appeared along the bottom edge, like someone on the other side had a flashlight pointed at the gap. The warehouse door itself wasn't open. It was closed. Heavy. It should have sat tight against the frame. That light meant someone was right there on the other side. The beam shifted slightly, like whoever held it crouched. Then it went out. I stood there for a second too long and realized I'd done the thing people do in scary stories. I'd let myself freeze, waiting for logic to save me. I grabbed the heaviest thing within reach, a stapler off the reception counter. Not because I thought it would help, but because holding something grounded me. I walked toward the warehouse door. Every step sounded too loud. When I got close, the light was gone. The door was still closed. I turned away immediately. I wanted out. I didn't want answers. I wanted air and the sound of my own car engine. And that's when I heard the worst sound of the night. Not the PA. Not my voice. My name. Soft. Human. Not through a speaker. Jake. Only a few people at work called me Jake in that exact tone. Frank did sometimes. Older guy habit, full name, like he was talking to a kid. I snapped my head toward the break room door. Dark. But there was a thin line of light under it now, like a phone screen face down on the floor. I took a step back. My heartbeat was so hard it made my fingers feel numb. I did not want to open that door. I reached for the handle anyway. It was warm, like it had just been held. I pushed. The door cracked open a few inches and stopped, like something inside was in the way. I pushed harder. Something slid back. The door opened wider. The break room was dark, but a phone screen glowed on the table. Bright enough to show the time. 11:18 p.m. I stepped in and stopped dead. The phone on the table looked exactly like mine. Same cracked corner on the screen protector. Same little sticker on the back. But my phone was in my hand. I looked down, yes, in my hand. I looked up, still on the table. On the table phone, the screen shifted to an outgoing call. Contact name, security. And beneath it, my number. That phone was calling Frank, from my number, right now. I backed out so fast my shoulder hit the door frame. Behind me in the corridor, the lights began turning off one by one. Not randomly. In sequence, starting near the admin exit and moving away, deeper into the building. Like someone was walking away from the doors, and the motion sensors were timing out behind them. I stood in the break room doorway and understood one clean, simple thing. I couldn't reason my way out of this. I needed to get outside, any way possible. At the far end of the office wing there was an emergency exit, a metal door that opened to the back lot near the dumpsters. It had an alarm, but it didn't need a badge. If I used it, the siren would blare, and Frank would hear it at the gatehouse. I ran. Yeah, ran. I didn't care how it sounded anymore. My shoes slapped the floor, my breath sounded loud in my own ears, and for a few seconds it felt like the corridor was longer than it should have been. I hit the crash bar. The door flew open. A siren screamed, sharp, metallic. Cold night air hit my face. I burst outside, stumbled on the threshold, caught myself, and sprinted across the back lot toward the front. I expected to see Frank come out, waving his arms, yelling at me. The lot was empty. Just lights and shadows and dumpsters. I rounded the building and finally saw the gatehouse window glowing. I ran up and knocked. No response. I knocked harder. The gatehouse door was locked. I peered in. The chair was empty. The logbook was open. A cup sat on the table. And a handheld radio hissed faintly, like it was stuck between channels. I tried calling Frank again. My phone, now at 3%, blinked red. No ring. Just a message, and no service. Then one of the yard lights popped on, flooding the area between me and the admin doors. In the gatehouse glass, I saw my reflection. At first, it was normal. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. In the reflection, behind me, framed in the admin entrance, someone was standing there. A silhouette. Still. Like a person in my jacket. I spun around. Nobody. I turned back to the glass. The silhouette was still there. Clearer. Closer by a step. But I heard no footsteps. No door. Nothing. I made the only smart decision I'd made all night. I didn't check. I ran to my car, got in, and started it. My hand shook so hard the key barely found the ignition. My headlights washed over the warehouse perimeter, the loading ramp, the white sign that read employees only. The gate arm was up, which I didn't stop to question. I drove out and didn't slow down until I hit a normal, lit road with real streetlights. The clock on my dashboard read 11:36 p.m. My phone died. At home I charged it, and immediately checked the security texts. The first one was still there, badge number 0413 at 11:11 p.m., warehouse door S2, entry granted. At 12:04 a.m. I received another. Access, badge number 0413. Door office A1. 11:34 p.m. Exit granted. A1 was the admin entrance, the door I'd tried to leave through. Exit granted, at 11:34 p.m. meant someone had exited using my badge while I was already outside running to my car. In other words, the system logged me as still inside. I barely slept. The next day I came in early, not because I wanted to, but because I needed footage. We had a maintenance guy named Dan who had access to cameras. He liked rules, and he hated being dragged into drama. I told him a half-truth. The emergency exit alarm went off last night, I said. I came back for something. Can you pull the cameras? I just want to see what happened. He gave me a look that said, you did something stupid. What time? Between 11:10 and 11:40, I said. He sighed, opened the archive, and scrubbed. The office corridor appeared on his monitor, empty, yellow lighting, the camera facing straight down the hallway. At 11:06 p.m., I entered. I saw myself do it. At 11:12, I walked down the corridor toward my office. So far it matched. Then Dan scrubbed to 11:18 and stopped. "Here," he said. I leaned in. On the screen, I was walking down the corridor. Me. Same jacket. Same posture. Same habit of keeping my right hand in my pocket. But the time. 11:18 p.m. That was when I remembered standing at the break room door, looking at the second phone. On the footage, I wasn't going to the break room. I was walking toward the warehouse door. Not fast. Not panicked. Like I knew exactly where I was going. Dan scrubbed forward. The version of me on camera stopped at the warehouse door, hesitated, then swiped a badge. The door opened. Darkness spilled out. And I walked into the warehouse. The door swung shut behind me. Dan looked at me, eyebrows raised like he expected me to say, "Okay, prank over." "So where were you?" he asked, half joking. But his voice didn't sound amused. "I was in the hallway," I said. "I didn't go in there." Dan tightened his jaw and scrubbed again. At 11:34, the camera caught me again, back in the corridor. Only this time, my face was blurred. Not bad quality blurred. Not motion blurred. Blurred like someone had deliberately smudged it, like censorship. Dan leaned closer to the screen. "What the hell is that?" he muttered. "This camera's fine. Look, earlier you're clear." He scrubbed back to 11:06. My face was sharp. He scrubbed forward to 11:34. My face blurred again. "I've never seen that," he said quietly. And in that moment I thought about the gatehouse reflection, how I'd seen a silhouette behind me that wasn't there. It wasn't just my eyes doing something. Something was showing up when it felt like it. I asked Dan to export the clip. He refused. "No," he said. "That's above me. If you want it, talk to your boss." I did. My supervisor listened, nodded in the way people nod when they want the conversation to end, and said the standard line. "Maybe you're exhausted." Then he added, "We'll disable your badge and issue a new one. Just in case." That day they gave me a new badge. I turned in the old one and signed paperwork. I tried to convince myself it was over. Glitch. System error. A weird chain of coincidences. 2 days later, Sunday afternoon, I was at home watching videos on my laptop when an email came in with no subject line. Sender, no reply at internal. That was our internal notification domain. The email contained one sentence. "You left this in the break room." There was an attached video. I opened it and my throat went tight. It was footage from a break room camera. I didn't even know we had a camera in there. On the table sat the white mug with the blue logo. Next to it was my notebook. And a pen. The pen moved on its own, slowly, writing on the paper. Letter by letter. Go back. In the corner of the video, a timestamp read 11:18 p.m. And then I saw the detail that made my hands go cold. In the lower left corner, under the timestamp, was an access overlay. Card 0413, active. My old badge. The one I'd turned in. The one that should have been dead. I slammed the laptop closed. A second later, my new badge, lying on the kitchen table next to my keys, made a single short beep. The same beep it makes at a door reader. Its tiny status screen flashed one code. S2. The warehouse door. I was standing in my own kitchen, in daylight, miles away from the industrial lot. And in that moment, the worst part finally clicked into place. That night, it wasn't someone else getting in. Something got in as me. And it still knew which doors were mine.